back, everybody. So today I'm pretty excited. We're going to install the cam. We're going to put in the hydraulic lifters, and we're going to put in the timing chain with the timing sprocket, and we're also going to put in the camshaft position sensor. I did some prep work. I'm down a camera, so it's going to be a little edgy to begin with, but we'll get started. Okay, so for today, the things I'm going to be using, I'm going to use this large screwdriver to help install the camshaft. Then this is the lifter trays. They're cleaned and ready to go. This is my timing set. It's all been staged. One thing that I did to help myself is on the new gears, I just painted a little red dot, which will help me when I'm lining up my timing. This is the new timing chain. I have taken the hardware that I'm going to reuse, and I cleaned it really good, got everything off of it, and then I am soaking my lifters in oil to just make sure that everything inside there is properly lubed. And these lifters are from Brian Tooley Racing. I love their products. Again, one thing I want to show is this is the original packing material that the Brian Tooley lifters come in, and they are actually lubed before you get them. So really nice job, Brian Tooley. But let's go ahead and get started. So the first step we want to do is we want to put our camshaft in. So when you're putting your camshaft in, it's going to go right in here. You have to be very careful to not damage your bearings that are already installed in the engine. So what I'm going to do is get a glove. I'm going to use this to help lube it. So I took the cam out of the original packing. This is an Elgin E1840P. It is what they call a sloppy stage 2, which gives a little bit better performance, but also at the same time it gives the engine a really nice low cam chop, make it sound good. It does add a horsepower. I don't know exactly how much right now, but the specifications are listed in the video. It is a 228 and 230 duration at 50 with a 585 intake and exhaust and a 112 lobe separation angle, 112 LSA. So let's start installing. I'm going to use the screwdriver and put it in here because it helps me control the cam as I put it in. And the camshaft does go in one direction, and you'll notice there's a key here at the front, which is where you mount it. Another thing to notice too is right here, this is what activates your cam position sensor, and it goes in the back of the engine. So we'll just put some lube on a lot of the research that I did on installing the cam said that you could really put the lube on it, and it helps it. So we'll slide it in, and then notice that now it's kind of free floating. This is where you want to be very careful to make sure that you keep your cam lined up so that you're not, there we go, we just hit the second journal, so that you're not using the lopes on the cam which are these parts right here, are very sharp and can ruin your newly installed cam bearings. So this is where you can take the screwdriver and use it to help you just kind of keep a balance on the cam. Well, hello, Daisy May. Oh, there went the third one. We only have 2 more. This is super exciting. Again, very generous with the assembly lube. All right, so we'll go extra slow. Make sure we keep it lined up. We're almost on the last one. That's great. Now, if you have any trouble when you are putting your cam in, if you've used the right cam bearings, the cam will almost act like it's stuck. You'll need to go back and check your bearings. Now, very carefully, we want to get this last part right. Almost. Bingo. Okay. So now that the cam is in place, you should be able to just turn it with your fingers. And be careful not to push the cam too far back, because we haven't mounted the cam into the plate yet. The cam feels really, really good. Now, one thing to do too is with this cover is where the oil goes. So you really want to make sure that you have a really good seal there. And I'm also going to put a little bit of lube right here. Just because that is a moving surface. Okay. And what I was mentioning about that seal being very important is that it's not an expensive part. So you might as well just get a new cam mount cover on there, because then you know that the seal is good. So this is it's a gasket, but also a cover at the same time. And if you notice, let me give you a part number. It is a Molly, or I'd say Molly B31822, General Motors. The orange part is the part that you want to seal. So just like with the other gaskets, notice that there is lube on the outside of that, because that's going to go in here. The one thing that I like to do, as I mentioned, is I always put just a little bit of oil on the gaskets. And it's not going to hurt anything. We just put a little bit in there. Okay. you want to install this part right here. Now, one thing that I've been reading quite a bit is to use thread lock on these bolts. So what I'm using is Loctite 248. Someone was saying that if you use the red Loctite, you're gonna have a really hard time if you need to change the cam out for any reason. And it is a 10mm socket. And we're going to use our torque wrench. And the cam cover, I have the factory manual up there. The cam cover is 18 foot-pounds, which I already have my torque wrench set to that setting. And again, just to make sure that it seats properly, I kind of alternate them. The cover feels like it's in a really good position to me. Let's do the top one first. Now, all I'm doing, I'm not going specifically for torque. I just want to get my bolt snug, and then I'm going to go for torque. Okay, so let's do the bottom on the torque first. We'll go to the top. Perfect. This side, and then this side. All right, so now the cam cover is installed. We're going to use this torque wrench again. Now the next step is going to be putting in the bottom gear. Now I'm going to use this to put the engine where I want it. And what I mean by that is while you're setting the gear, and this is, I'm just simply using the old harmonic balancer or the crank pulley. Just using that old bolt and then screw it in. And what I'm wanting is to be able to get my key lined up, which is right here on the top. Then I want to take this back out. There are installation tools that you can use, but I saved my old one. If you don't have an old one around, you'll have to get like the tool, get some washers. But the way that I'm going to do this is, see, this is my old one, and this is the new one. Again, just a little bit to help the process, not a lot. And I'm going to line up that groove with the key. Okay, well, once I've done that, this is the old one. I'm going to put it here to match up where it's at, and I'm going to lightly tap it with my rubber hammer. Again, try to put it in the same place and just lightly tap. I'm not tapping hard at all. And you want to do this until it fully seats. is right there. And that's how it looks when it is fully installed. Now, to set the timing, this is really important. And I kind of did a little guide to help myself out here. We're going to need this again. And then this is the #1 piston. We want it at top dead center, which is the utmost height that the piston's going to go. But another way to tell is I painted those red dots to kind of keep me in check a little bit. Oh, here it is. So let's put the engine at top dead center. So there is the red dot that I put on it. Now let me check. Let me check and make sure that my piston, the #1 piston, is all the way up. So now this is when that part of the cam that I mentioned earlier comes in handy, and then this is where the screws go in. Another thing here too is you know, I want to lube the surfaces, and I'll use some Loctite, the same type of Loctite. And the torque specification on the cam gear is 25 foot-pounds. So I'm going to go ahead, it's still a 10 millimeter. All right, I'm at 25 pounds now. We'll need the chain. Let's use some of this lube. Now, what I'm looking for is this red dot to match this dot. So if I put it on the cam, and I'm going to use this alignment pin to put my cam where it's going to line up, which is right there. Okay, so now that I know that, I'm going to use a little bit of lube. And the chain could be a little aggravating to get on if you don't line it up quite right. But the chain does not have a marking or anything on it to basically tell you where the chain goes. It doesn't have a certain point. So then I put that on, and my chain is lined up, and I'm going to line there we go. I want to put some Loctite. This slack in the chain can be there. It's supposed to be there. It's the Gen 4, again with some Loctite. It's the Gen 4 that has the tensioners in them, which there's a lot of aftermarket tensioners. ICT, just to name one. I say ICT, they're my favorite. Notice that my red dots are in alignment. Hey, buddy. Oh, don't want to forget. Hello, Boom. Daisy. Another thing to notice is when I've got plenty of help is when you are installing the gear, it is tightening up. And again, just like with installing the other parts that I did, I'm gonna hand tighten them first. A lot of people use like impacts. They say not to, but I'm not using it because I want to take my time and just make sure that everything is done correctly. Cams all the way forward. There we go. Let's get that thing tightened down some more. This will also keep our cam in place. Oh yeah, we took a lot of deflection out of the chain. Okay, everything is hand tightened. Now remember, we're doing 25 foot-pounds. I've already set my torque wrench. Let's take all the slack out. Alright, double check. Okay, so our timing is lined up. It looks really good. Everything feels pretty smooth. And our gears are lined up. So again, the 2 red dots. Alright, so before I forget, just put a little oil on it to help. Now, we won't need that anymore unless we're going to change the crank out. I thought about throwing it away. Okay, so now I am going to test the engine really quickly just to make sure everything is still moving good. Let's see, we're really tight now. There might be an issue. One thing to notice is when you rotate the engine is that this turns 2 times for every 1. And we're adding more stuff to the engine, so it's getting just a little bit harder to turn over. But what we want to verify is that our dots line up and we are still, oh, let's go back around. Doesn't hurt. It's just gonna lube things up. And I think I'm really only taking it There we go. And we're at top dead center. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to put my lifter trays in. So I have the lifters will go on the trays one way, but I really don't think that it matters which side. But prior to this installation, I have cleaned and made sure that all that was good to go. So now, the messy part, but it's fun, right? Why not? When we were kids, remember how we used to always play in the dirt? Another thing too that a friend of mine told me about the lifters is if you ever change the cam, you want to make sure your lifters are out. If you can't, then use that oil gallery and stick a wooden dowel in it. If not, you're going to lose your lifters down in your engine. So, again, this is our lifter tray, and it will go in that position. Now, the way that your lifters go in is we have been soaking them in oil, is this part goes towards the camshaft. Notice that there are indentions. There is no indication of which side goes which. Now, some people did say to use this ring facing the top, and that I really don't. You can't do that. So I'm just going to face them all to the right in the same direction. And notice too, once that we get our lifters put into the holder, I don't know if it'll hold completely because this one feels really loose. So you want to be careful because you don't want to chip or dent your lifters. Okay, so here is the first four, and they're going to go right down in these holes right there. It's a really good fit and it felt good. So we're going to repeat that process around the engine. And these rollers will roll off of your camshaft, and remember that we lubed the camshaft while we were installing it. One thing you want to feel too when you're putting it down in there is that everything is going in smooth. If not, then there's, something's out of alignment. And if you listen closely, you heard one of them fall, but it fell right down in the engine to the and made contact with the crankshaft. So I'm really not worried about it because it's where it needs to be. Now, the one cool thing I like about the lifter trays is as we build, if we're turning the motor over, the lifters will not fall out as long as you have the trays in. Now, those actual trays are 9 foot-pounds. This torque wrench that I have goes as low as 4. So here is 9. And I want to mention one thing that I mentioned in the very beginning. I think it was episode 1 or 2, is to clean the holes. I think it was maybe 2. Clean the holes so that there's no debris or water in the holes. There it went. All right, so now our lifter trays are installed. Now we want to do the camshaft position sensor, and I'm gonna have to look that torque up. I'm probably sure it's about 20. It is 18 foot-pounds of torque. Just like with anything that I'm installing, I like to lube up the gasket. And one thing I like about the LS series engines is you pretty much know where you need to mount your sensor, and then just a wiggle it a little and it just pops down in there. And again, a little bit of thread sealant. We're actually going to be, I'm relocating the NOx sensors to the side of the engine so that I can have this solid. All right, and then that is 18. So let's go to yours 10. So there's 18 foot-pounds. Right. I'd like to thank everybody for coming by again. Like, subscribe. We're just now starting to speed up and things are really fun. I want to give a shout out to Brian Tooling Racing. I love how your lifters came pre-oiled. And in this video in particular, I want to shout out my brothers for the Knights of Columbus. I love what you do, and I appreciate you very much. And let's look forward to the next video.